Okay, I'd like to call the Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board to order. First action item is consider approval of minutes from the December 17th board meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Motion to approve. Roll.
I was just going down. I guess we ought to call the roll first. I was just going with number.
He's just excited to get started.
That's right.
Member Hale? Here. Member Cubine?
Here,
Member Mason?
he's in transit.
Member Snyder?
Here.
We have a quorum to do business. Now we'll go back to action item number 1. Consider the minutes from the December 17th board meeting.
Motion to accept them as submitted.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any objections, discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, action number 2, financial reports for the December 31st, 2019. Mr. Denton?
Yes, Mr. Cubine, members of the board, good evening. We are starting out here on page 17 of our board packet. Frankfort Plant Board has a fiscal year end, and year ending June 30, 2020 this year. So this is 6 months snapshot of where we are as a company. Just start first with our statement of net position, which is very similar to a balance sheet for a for-profit entity. Looking at our total assets on line 65, as of December 31st, 2019, Plant Board had $181.7 million. You can see that we're going in the right direction. You definitely want to see assets going up is a good thing. We're up 1.5% from this exact period a year ago. Looking at our total liabilities, line 130, just over $86.6 million as of 12/31. You can see that's down 9.7% from a year ago, which is a very good thing. Net position, when you take your assets minus your liabilities, the net position of the Plant Board as of 12/31/2019, just over $95.1 million. As you can see, up $12 million from a year ago, or 14.5%. So all of our numbers moving in the right direction there for all the main categories, bringing our total liabilities and net position at 12/31 to just over $181.7 million. Be glad to answer any questions you may have about that statement. If not, I'd like to move over to the next page, page 18, our cash and investment schedule. I'm just going to focus on the total balances unless anyone wants to go a little deeper. On line 80, you can see where we're just over $18.4 million in restricted and unrestricted cash as of 12/31/19. Our investments, both restricted and unrestricted, line 145, just over $22.3 million for the period. We list those out there by restricted and unrestricted and do show what local financial institutions those are held in. I would like to talk about our bonds, leases, and loans payable on the next page, page 19. As of 12/31, started the year out, total short long-term debt on our bonds, leases, and notes payable just over $36.8 million. You can see we've decreased that by approximately 10% through the first 6 months of the year, paid down just under $3.6 million in principal on those liabilities, bringing our total loans, leases, and loans payable balance to just over $33.2 million as of 12/31/19. And we're on the right track there. No questions. I'd like to briefly touch on the financial performance through the first 6 months of this fiscal year. Page 21, looking at our statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position. For all 3 lines of business, electric, water, cable, telecom, on line 20s on the third column, you can see we have $51.8 million in total revenue. It's very much in line where we were a year ago, and that's even after us giving a $1.6 million electric rebate to our customers. So we're performing well through this first 6 months. Line 50, total operating expenses, just over $33.2 million. Significant decrease from a year ago, primarily driven by our decrease in wholesale power cost. Our wholesale power cost is down $2 million compared to this period, the 6 months a year ago, so that's helped us there. Bring all that, subtract from that our general and administrative expenses, line 285, of just under $11.8 million for the period, and add our other revenue of $917,000, brings our net contribution to just over $7.7 million for this first 6 months of the year. As we do each month, we have our summary of all of our checking account activity and check registers for our 2 most active checking accounts for your review. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but that's a really quick snapshot of our first 6 months of the year.
So overall, compared to where you think we are and trending for the next 6 months, you think we're on track, or everything will come in about where we thought, or a little below?
I
or-
think we're going to do better than expected. Costs have been contained compared to budget. Staff's done a good job there. Revenue is, our predictions are holding. The savings we thought we would have on wholesale power, which is half of our entire company expenses, are on track. So financially, the company's in a good spot compared to where we thought we'd be.
Does the milder winter so far to date have any impact on where you think we'll be, or?
It really is surprising it has not. It's been about a 0.5% reduction in usage by our customers, and revenue is still in line. You would think with the warmer temperatures it would have more of an impact, but it really hasn't.
Any other questions for David? Okay, I need a motion to accept the financials.
I'll make a motion to accept the financials.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted. Number 3, public hearing, water sub-metering. Steve would normally do it, the vice chairman, but I think, John, you're gonna take care of that one?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing will come to order. My name is John Snyder. I've been requested by the board to conduct this hearing. With me today are board members and staff of the Frankfort Electric and Water Plant Board. We're here to receive comments regarding changes to FPB's tariff regarding the sub-metering of water service. This public hearing was advertised in accordance with regulations for public notification and appeared in the weekend, January 10th, 12th, 2020 edition of the State Journal newspaper. To conduct this hearing in an organized fashion, we would ask that you register with the secretary if you wish to speak. This hearing will be conducted informally and is conducted voluntarily by the Frankfort Electric and Water Plant Board in order to accept comments on the above item. Both oral and written comments will be accepted. Any and all persons present will wish to make a statement will be afforded the opportunity to do so. If you have a written statement to accompany your oral presentation, a copy of the written statement should be provided to the board prior to your presentation. Oral presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, I will interrupt and request the presentation to be completed due to the time limit. I may ask questions of any person presenting oral comments where it is necessary to clarify the nature or substance of the comments. The board reserves the rights to answer questions at a later date. It's the job of the board to fairly consider various points of view and information. We want public input and involvement, and I hope you do not find our standard procedures to be restrictive. Additional oral comments and written comments will be accepted and considered if they're submitted no later than the end of normal business hours on Monday, February 17th, 2020. To submit a comment, you can contact FPB at our phone number 352-4372 or on the website at www.fbb.cc. Before we open the floor for comments, I'd like to recognize Mr. David Billings, who will provide a summary of the details. David?
Thank you, sir. Prior to this proposed change, our tariffs frowned on net metering. At some point in the past history, the state of Kentucky made some revisions to their sub-metering, basically making it easier for people to sub-meter. The one question that I had last time when we brought this up is, what is a sub-meter? It is basically a privately owned water meter that's downstream of the meter that we use to bill by. So an example of that would be, say you purchased a hotel and you decided that you wanted to start renting those hotel rooms out on a monthly basis. There would more than likely be a larger master meter out at the road that the consumption that the entire hotel would be billed. A sub-meter would be an individual meter for each room that the landlord would be able to divide the usage out and charge each tenant their fair share. So these proposed changes follow in line with the KAR and would make it easier for our customers to install sub-metering. To my knowledge, we haven't had any questions up to this point. We've made the proposed changes available in print here and both at the service center, and I don't believe anybody has picked those up or asked any questions.
Any of the other members have questions? Do we have anybody signed up to speak yet?
Not that I know of, no.
Anybody want to talk about this issue? Okay, thank you, Mr. Billings. Anybody watching? You feel free to comment by February 17th. Thank you,
And
David.
And this would be what, on our agenda at the next meeting?
It'll be on our agenda at the next meeting. My assumption would be for approval.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, John. Action item to renew of FPB insurance policies. Hance?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is our annual insurance renewals. These are all of our policies except the pollution coverage and workers' comp coverage. The premium this year went up by 4.5%, and those factors leading to that increase are detailed in the board package. But I went back and looked at an 11-year price history, and it's gone up by about 1.7% over that time each year, and inflation's run about 1.8%. So it's kind of a cost that trends along with inflation. I sent to the board a memo about the D&O coverage earlier, and be happy to answer any questions. Charlie Hamilton is with us tonight to answer any questions as well, but I would recommend renewal of the coverages. Thank you.
I had a comment.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
what you sent us in the email to the board, you mentioned the necessity of having pre-approval for an attorney, et cetera, if a claim is filed. I think we should add that to either our hopefully upcoming board governance policy or have it somewhere or in our bylaws or something, so we have it in writing, so in a future situation, there's no question about that.
Yes, ma'am. The D&O coverage ties in with the board's indemnification policies and also state law on indemnification policies. So that's a good segue into your board governance. And
Is
so
there a
on
way,
and so forth.
is there anything we can do to incorporate what she's talking about prior to that, or by anything with the policies right now that's in front of us, or?
No, sir. No, sir. It wouldn't be a good mechanism to do that.
So we need to do that through the governance?
But it would be through the governance.
Okay.
They do tie together.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
John, you got any
Thanks.
questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
You mentioned also, Hance, that some carriers, we've had good payment experience with this particular carrier. About how often how many claims have we had over the last few years, I guess? Being new on the board, I just get an idea of how often
We don't have a great deal of claims right now. I was thinking about liability claims. We have I think 2 cases now where folks have allegedly stepped in a unsecured meter
Sold
vault
or
lid.
something, okay.
Kim, I know we get occasional claims for somebody's had a power spike in their refrigerator, TV set was damaged.
Those sorts of things.
But
Okay.
we've only had one claim under the D&O EPLI policy here in the last 5 years, so we don't have a great deal of claims. And again, it's a lot of the staff that kind of
Yeah.
your
Right.
work practices and your business practices kind of contribute to that. So
Great.
How often do
Good
we
check.
check the vendors and compare with other carriers or whatever?
we go out. Charlie's the broker and goes out on the market each time to look at the various coverages that are available.
Charlie, is this what you're seeing in the market, these kind of increases for across all carriers?
Actually see it higher than that normally. Usually what we're seeing right now, because the market's considered to be hard, particularly on the directors and officers, we're seeing between 5 and 10% on good accounts.
Really?
Your account's considered to be an excellent account.
Okay.
So a lot of the reason for the 4.5% or part of it is due to increases in exposures, payrolls, building limits, business income limits.
Okay.
Yep.
So these are actually,
They're
from
good.
a trend standpoint, we're actually below what the trends.
Yes, with what's going on right now, it's the market's considered hard right now.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? We need a motion.
I make a motion to accept the proposal.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted. Thanks, Hance. Public comment? Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? What about website?
The majority of the website comments were Fox related.
Okay,
I don't know, we might have had around 20,
okay,
and I think it was about 50-50 for and against.
Okay.
and, That's on,
right, okay,
that's on here to be decided, so
okay,
that will be settled shortly.
okay. Department reports, first one, telecommunications.
Zheng. I'll be delivering the report on behalf of Adam tonight, beginning on page 215 of the board packet. The December customer service penetration chart shows that we're running pretty close to the budget amounts for each offering. Page 216, the December trouble call resolution chart shows that we've taken 71 less calls overall than we did this time last year. And then lastly, there's no reported outages for the month of December, so it's a good month for that.
Yeah.
If the board has any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Question? Okay. Customer service?
Yes, I will be covering that report tonight. We have for you, starting on page 217, our two board reports we put in each month. So for December 2019, you can see between our the calls, our customer services that was walked in to meet with one of our CSRs, and our cashier transactions are just under 10,500 points of contact with our customers throughout the month. Really appreciate the job our customer service team does. We had a little uptick on our wait times. We try to keep those at a minute or below with the holidays and illness. If you have a shorter staff, that contributes to longer wait times, so that's the reason for that. But all in all, it was a good month and off and running for 2020.
Are all of our positions filled in terms of customer service and so forth?
We
Do
were
have
fully
vacancies
staffed. We've learned we're going to be short one customer service representative, and if we haven't posted that job, it will be being posted soon. So
Okay.
we'll be looking for a new customer service rep. If anyone watching tonight would like to
Apply?
help us out, that would be great.
Do we have a lot of interest in those jobs?
We do. We always have a decent candidate pool, and it's you can tell a difference when everyone's here and manning the station. You
Yeah.
can tell a big difference. So every person matters. So
Thank you.
that's
Any questions?
keep everybody healthy.
Electric department?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you turn to page 221, you'll see that our SAIDI number for the month of December is 35.542. As you flip to page 222, you'll see our pie chart, which has the percentages for each type of outage we have or have had. And then on page 223, you'll see those percentages into actual numbers. So we had a total of 14 outages for the month of December. And then on page 224, you will see the top 10 outages that we had for the month, and we had a total of 90 customers affected. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Squirrels are a problem even in the winter, huh?
Well, as you said a while ago, it hasn't been cold enough for the squirrels to stay. However, they're running around quite a bit, so.
Any questions?
No.
SEPA?
If I could piggyback on the electric report real quick, I just wanted to mention that the energy audit program has been open for 2 weeks now. We've got 25 signups so far.
And and how many can we handle?
About 110, we think, unless we get a lot of really large homes. About
Okay.
110. So 25 so far.
Is that good? Is that what you expected or less or?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little better than we expected, but
Really?
I think it would be probably more popular right up front. So they may slow down, I would
Okay.
imagine, here soon. So
Okay.
happy to answer any questions.
And I'll be covering SEPA tonight. Vince on vacation. Looking at page 225, you can see we run a month behind. So activity for November, you can see after all benefits, energy capacity value, that we were approximately $63,000 profit for the period. Now over the 23-year relationship with SEPA, we're approximately $10.5 million contribution to Frankfort Plant Board. So moving in the right direction for this year.
Kimi?
For QMEA, the QMEA board started discussing the next year's rate and also the new budget. So, we're going to have a meeting this week following. So I think the next 2 months we will decide what's the new rate. But definitely we're looking for is not going up. Actually, our rate can go down. So there could be a potential additional saving for each member, and the number detailed number we'll know in the next 2 months.
So our customers won't be facing any rate increases for the next?
No, I really didn't say even next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, you got that? Yeah. Safety?
I just have one OSHA recordable this month to report. We had a restricted duty case where someone strained their lower back in the cable department, so carrying boxes. So no vehicle accidents report.
Were they off work or?
Just on restricted duty.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a week-long restricted duty,
Okay.
and they're back to work full-time, full
Okay.
scale.
Water distribution?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Water Distribution Department is very grateful for a mild winter so far. We've only had 3 main breaks and 3 outages. Our report's on page 231 through 233.
You're very photogenic too, Mr. Smith. Water treatment plant?
Good evening. The water treatment plant report is on page 235. For December, we treated roughly 260 million gallons of water, averaging 8.38 million gallons. You can see that's up for a typical December. That was despite having 5 inches of rain. It may sound like a lot of rain, but we got 4 inches of rain in 2 separate days. So it came all hard, fast, all at one time. Because of that, we had quite a bit of flow in the river. It was a little over 23,000 cubic feet per second. We're back up to that 15.4 billion gallons of water a day passing the intake. Wanted to give you a little bit of an idea. Most of the time we run all of our reports on a calendar year rather than a fiscal year, and that's typically driven by all of the different regulations that we're under. So we kind of base it on a calendar year. And looking back at 2019, we were pretty much on track for the way we had been for the past couple of years. We're treating just over about 3 billion gallons of water a day. That's about 8.4 million gallons of water. So we're doing well. We're not seeing any kind of decrease at all in any of our production rates.
Was there any reason you think December was higher than normal in terms of water use?
I think we had just a little bit more usage by some of our consecutive systems.
Okay. Okay.
And it really, it was a milder, you remember Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
We had 60-degree weather.
Right.
And so we did see a little bit higher
Yeah.
pumpage rates.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Knock?
Good evening. I think your NOC report is located on page 237. You'll see, as usual, we provided just the breakdown of calls per line of service. It looks like in the month of December, we took just over 1,600 calls, 1,661, or handled about that many. And our locates, actually for the year, closing out in December was down 372, which is normal. It's December, it's starting to get cold. Construction projects kind of, they decrease a little bit. So far, or for the 2019 year, we did 6,541 locates across the 3 lines of service, was 19,623. So, our 2 locators did just under 20,000 locates last year, so they were pretty busy. And with this warm weather, they've actually been staying busy. People are trying to get things done.
John?
Yeah.
Is that number typical? Is that
Yeah, it
lot,
is.
or is that?
Well, it seems like it's probably going up. A couple of reasons. It's going up every year. One, more reporting. Oddly enough, Kentucky is only one of 2 states in the nation that does not require every utility to be a member of an 811 service. There's been a little pushback from the smaller, like water districts, smaller electric districts, just because there's some money involved with being a member. Although they have to, they have to go do it themselves anyway. But it's not as convenient for the customer either, because most people just assume you call 811 and it's done. Yeah. And even, in this county, If you're a customer of a smaller water district, they're probably not members, so you have to call them as well.
And there's no
So
charge
those-
for locate, right?
No, there's
Yeah.
no charge to the customer, no. But those numbers go up as more people join 811. And then there's more projects, more cable, more fiber, more everything. So, yeah, that's a couple of reasons.
No, you get it. Don?
No.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, action item number 8.1, consider approval of a lease agreement for office space between the Frankfort Plant Board and the Kentucky Municipal Utility Association. This is big dollars, right, Mr. Denton?
Yes, sir. It's going to solve all the problems.
Yes, right.
The Kentucky Municipal Utility Association has reached out to the Frankfort Plant Board and requested the board's appetite to lease office space to the organization. They're looking to decrease operating costs and at the same time elevate their presence. They do help their members with lobbying activities, so being in Frankfort's important to them. We did some looking in a building and discussed the potential of doing this. We have identified a 513 square foot office space down in our ground floor that is suitable to KMUA's request. So we're asking the board to approve a lease agreement for office space to lease 513 square feet, 75 cents a square foot, so just under $385 a month for KMUA to
And
set
there's no
up.
fit-up cost, right? I mean, the space as is, we don't have to do anything to modify anything, or?
We do not. It's a finished room, and they'll be bringing their own office furniture and all of that. So we're asking the board if you're all right with this arrangement to approve the lease, and I think their board will be voting on it. They have their board meeting this week as well, if this were to be approved.
So will they have access to this room for their board meetings?
They have
et cetera?
asked when they need a larger space that if they could rent out this room, or I say just ask to use it, which we've verbally said that'd be fine. We have a calendar, and so if it's open, then feel free to use the room. They'll actually be using the room this Friday for their quarterly board meeting.
And we belong to that association, right?
We do. We've belonged to them for years, and I believe they're their largest member also.
Is that just an executive director and one other, is it two staff people? or
It is
no?
two staff, executive director and executive assistant.
Okay.
And a lot of the work is done off-site. There is a small conference room downstairs that they could use as well, but talking with them, don't believe it will be a burden to FPB as far as our workflow with our staff and day-to-day operations. It's access downstairs is close to a stairwell, so you don't have to enter far into the building to get to their office.
Will
So-
people that come and visit them, will they come in through the front door here, or will they come to the side where their office is?
We would, the hope of communication, the easiest would be just to walk down the steps, or we'll give them access as well in the agreement to the parking in the back for our employee parking. So hopefully we can communicate that they would come through directly downstairs is the hope. But if they do, we can get them to the area.
John?
They're not envisioning a whole lot of visitor traffic though, are they?
They are not, no. No, most of their work's performed off-site with members or potential.
They're at the annex or the Capitol or wherever. doing
Correct.
that stuff, right, yeah.
And if they do have a large event, it's usually the membership, and they would use the room if it was available. Here, this is the room we're in right now.
No, it's-
Any other questions? Need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move we go ahead and approve the lease agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted. This is, Harvey, this is the one that Kathy teased about a minute ago, so.
Yeah, thank you. Cable Advisory Committee and staff recommend the board approve the NCTC renewal for Fox Cable. The agreement has a term from January 1, 2020 through December 1, 2023. The networks covered include Fox News, Fox Business, and Fox Sports 1 on classic cable, and Fox Sports 2 on preferred. Fox News was the most viewed cable network in Frankfort in 2019. The agreement represents an overall programming license fee increase for these networks of just under 15% in year one and vary between 6 and 8% in following years. The increases are lower than what was budgeted. There are no additional carriage or migration requirements in this agreement, and consider them as an take-all or have-none scenario, as this agreement does not allow a la carte purchasing. Staff attorney has reviewed it, and it meets with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this item.
John?
And this was the one where Fox News was attempting to, I'll go ahead and say it, strong arm us to get away from NCTC. And
Yes, they sent a few emails and a couple of phone calls, but the cooperative stood strong, and I think it paid off in the long run.
And what was their initial request for it? Wasn't it something like 800% or something? Just
It was the large number was versus the cost of living increase. The actual increase, I think, was closer to 30%.
Okay.
Initial.
Don?
No questions.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Fox Cable agreement.
No, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted. Harvey? Number 8.3, consider approving public hearing notice covering reducing rate for limited cable service, increasing rate for classic cable service, increasing rate for bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2, and create a new billing breakdown for classic cable.
As always, this proposed increase is a direct pass-through of increased programming costs on classic cable. It's not a result of a single agreement. Each of the 7 major media companies own a piece of this increase. The Fox deal that was just approved makes up only a portion of it. Staff recommends the board approve the public notice for the purpose of conducting a public hearing at a special meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board. We're proposing February 11th at 5 p.m. Right here.
February 11th?
That's what we're, but obviously whatever, is your pleasure. So the 4 items that make up the public hearing would be a reduction in the limited cable tier. That's channels 2 through 30, reducing that from $16 to $12.79 per month, effective. And the effective date will actually be April 1st, 2020. I think the agenda says March 1st, but how we bill ahead, it'll actually take effect April 1st. This is a 20% reduction in rate. Number 2, increasing the rate on classic cable, and that's channels 2 through 98, increase from $67 per month to $69.50. The increases are needed to keep pace with the increases in our wholesale license fees. This is a 3.7% increase. And then increasing the rate for bulk cable 1 and 2, bulk cable 1 from $13.26 per outlet per month to $13.96 per outlet per month. Bulk cable 1, as defined in the tariff, typically includes hotels and dormitories. And then bulk cable 2 from $23.12 per outlet per month to $24.35 per outlet per month. Bulk cable 2 is defined typically office complexes with more than 8 outlets. These increases are commensurate with the classic cable rate increases. And then finally, on the billing breakdown, what we really wanted to do is increase the transparency with regard to the drivers in our classic cable rates. So we propose to break our classic cable rate into 2 factors, a customer charge and then a cable network pass-through fee, which would add up to the $69.50 that we refer to in the second piece. The customer charge would be $12.79, and the cable network pass-through fee would be $56.71, which would, similar to our retrans surcharge, would be just a direct pass-through of the programming costs that FPB pays to media ownership groups. And I want to share just a few charts here. So okay, so this is a historical look at, right here is our classic cable rate. This is from 2003 to today, this blue line. And then this orange line is our programming expense. So you see those two really just going in lockstep over the years. And then this green line is the piece that the plant board takes of the bill. And so that was $15.70 back in 2003, and we're proposing in 2020 for that to be $12.79 to be the cable, the customer charge.
So we're lower now.
Yes, sir.
The lowest we've been for 17 years.
That is correct. And then you can see here is the same information just as percentages. And so this blue line is the percentage of the bill that goes to pay for programming, and this green line is the percentage of the bill that stays here in Frankfort. And then this just shows, the total $69.50, and then the pieces being the customer charge and then the pass-through fee. And then all these networks up here are the ones that drive that cost. And then finally, just a look at what a sample bill might look like for your cable charges on classic cable, the $56.71 and the $12.79, adding up to the $69.50, and then your retrans and taxes, whatnot. So that's what we're proposing for a public hearing to discuss these things, or to get feedback from our customers at a special meeting, and then would ask the board to approve these changes at their regular meeting in February. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
So your proposed date for the hearing is February 11th?
Yes, sir.
Don? John?
Yeah, I just have
Tuesdays are okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just really like how you've broken out the classic cable cost, because I think it really gives everyone the ability to be able to see what we're making from it and what the cable companies are making from it, and I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
John?
Yeah.
Question. The retransmission surcharge at $19.98 on the sample bill you had.
Yes.
Where are we on the schedule on
Sure.
our retransmission agreements with those local stations,
Yeah.
and when are they back up for negotiation?
That's a great question. So we're in year 3 of of our last 3 years. Those were the rates were established at our February 2018 meeting.
Okay.
So this is the 3rd year. So at the end of this year, all of those agreements expire.
Okay.
And so we will start talking to you guys. We start getting election letters usually in September, October time range. And then, we start negotiating. We'd like to get them done as soon as possible. They often like to wait till the end to put as much pressure as possible.
Right.
So we'll be having those conversations with you guys.
Are we going to be, do you think we're going to be looking at similar types of confiscatory increases?
Yeah, I think most likely. There may be some advantages in using our cooperative to negotiate with some of these groups that we haven't had in the past, thanks to some legislation that's come through from the federal level.
Right.
And so hopefully that'll be a little bit better, but I don't see the dollars going
So
south.
so if somebody was owned by like Sinclair or something like that,
Right.
NCTC would be able to go to Sinclair instead of trying to negotiate one-on-one with
Right, and then they would negotiate upon, on behalf of all the members who
Okay.
who are in Sinclair territories, of which we are one. So.
Right. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm just making an observation here.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be one of the next big decisions we have to make. We have a luxury right now of we carry two different affiliates for CBS and ABC both.
Correct.
And that when I came here 30 some odd years ago, we carried everybody from everywhere because we couldn't get charged for it. But
Right.
but we're going to have a decision we may have to make in terms of price versus what we can afford to our folks. And I just want to let everybody know who might be watching that, used to be that the broadcast people could not charge. They had to carry. You had to carry if we could pick up their signal. Was my understanding. But when these retransmission fees have just taken up a bigger and bigger chunk of that cable bill, so it's almost $20 now. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a decision. It may be a luxury we can't afford for our ratepayers anymore. And that's a shame. That's a shame. So that's my only observation.
I want to show, you can see, is it on this one? Yep. So here, you can see the years where retrans hit. So 2009, and then 12, and then all these big jumps are retrans years. Right here was the last one. So no reason to think it would be any different, but certainly we'll start having those conversations in the fall. I appreciate your, willingness to have those discussions with us.
Is this something, Larry, that your group looks at? The advisory committee?
I would assume so, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing, we really need input from the customers in terms of, because, we're making the assumption, I think it's valid, but we're assuming that customers want those local stations and that the options to see both Louisville and Lexington, but there's a cost to it, so, that's something we're gonna need some input and some feeling from you all on.
We've also put surveys in the field the
Mhm.
last two
Yeah.
rounds to get a sense for what people are
Yeah.
willing to take. And we usually like to wait till we get at least an idea financial before we put that out there, but I think that would be something to consider this year too.
Okay. So the only thing you need us to act on tonight is whether to do the hearing on February 11th at 5 o'clock?
That's correct.
Or a different date if
Yeah.
Yeah.
the board prefers.
No, I'll go ahead and make that motion. And to have the, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hold a special public hearing, on cable rates, that's been proposed here, on February 11th at 5 PM here at, the plant board meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? Okay. Without objection, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Harvey. With the board's permission, Tom, I understand you had some access problems here?
Well, the front door is usually the way I
Yeah.
come in.
Mhm.
It's no longer available.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I thought maybe you had gone somewhere else or were having your meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But I came back.
Okay. Well, since you made that extra effort if the board's approval, if we can go back to number 5 real quick for public comment, if you want to.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure, Tom.
My name is Tom Marshall. I'm a plant board customer. Live about a block from Mr. Snyder. Get his mail every once in a while. What I'd like to talk about tonight is KYMEA. I went to the December board meeting because I thought, I haven't been to one of these. I got a little time. I'll go. Walked in, and if you haven't been there, some really nice digs. So I guess as Frankfort is the largest member, we're paying the largest part of the tab for the nice place. Sat through the proceedings, and during that time there was a comment made by Doug Baresh, whatever his title is, CEO, that they had missed some things because in terms of where they expected to be, and obviously there may be some questions as to how this will affect rates in terms of demand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with every other utility service, your demand kind of drives how you distribute the cost. And if you don't have the demand that you projected, then the cost is going to have to be distributed somewhere, and I'm assuming it's coming to the ratepayers. I asked a question at the end about the software that was used to come up with the estimates in terms of demand, and I got the usual question that you get from meetings. We're here to take your comment. We're not here to give you an answer. So I have no idea as to how they may answer that. Perhaps they'll answer that at the board meeting this Thursday. I hope so. Mr. Zheng can probably tell me there's an AR meeting. I'm assuming that stands for all requirements. And we're an all requirements member, which means we get to pay the biggest share. There are some members, as I understand it, Mr. Zheng, that are not all requirements members, so they have there is a way that they can kind of avoid some of the cost. I would hope that the members of the plant board would pay close attention to what goes on in these meetings in January and February, because those are the meetings where they're going to discuss this all requirements. I'm assuming they're going to start talking about what kinds of rates they're going to be charging in the future, and to see whether or not those rates are going to go up more than was expected. Also, they are going to have a budget meeting on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, the committee. I'm assuming we won't be told we can't attend if we're citizens, but I guess I'll need to check with Mr. Paresh and see if that's the case. The budget document, I hope somebody on the board will take it upon themselves to take a close look at that budget document and see whether or not they believe it's fair to the Frankfort ratepayers. I'm sure there's a whole lot more that goes into that budget than paying for the building. I gleaned from the meeting that I went to that they have now become members of the Chamber of Commerce. I heard that they had a table at the Chamber legislative dinner. I'm assuming that cost something. There was discussion during the December meeting about a legislative fly-in to Washington, D.C., where I think they said something like 10 people from the various members would be able to go to Washington, and that's in the budget. I'm beginning to wonder why all these things are in there, but that's for another day. There was also discussion during that December meeting about a piece of legislation. There was nothing specific stated about that piece of legislation. The attorney for the board, Charlie Musson, said, well, I'll have a draft out to you soon, meaning to the members. Perhaps Mr. Zheng can elaborate later on during this meeting as to what that legislation may be, whether it's been filed, and what is the purpose of that legislation, and why is KYMEA a part of the group, if there is a group, that is supporting and pushing for this legislation. And I'm sure there are other things I could talk about, but you've been generous in letting me to, have a few words here, and I appreciate it. And let me see real quickly. This is, if you haven't seen it, and I'll leave it with Mr. Cubine or Mr. Liebman, whoever is the appropriate person. This is the agenda, and for the next board meeting, I don't have the agendas for the budget meeting or any of the other committee meetings. I'm not quite sure how those function. It would be nice to know how they function and whether they're open to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any board members have any questions or?
No.
Okay. Gary, you've got those things that he's asked about, and you follow up and
Sure, I will follow up.
and brief
with
us on
yeah,
things he's raised.
the QMEA management and see what's the, I have. All
And you're on the budget committee now, aren't you?
No.
You're not on the.
I'm not on the budget
Yeah.
committee.
Mhm.
Yes.
I thought you, at one point, were going to get on it, or?
I hope in the future.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
they can appoint me.
Thanks, Tom. Okay. Go to item 8.4, consider approval of resolution to adopt a new 401A defined contribution plan. Mr. Denton?
Yes, sir. We were asking the board tonight to adopt the resolution, I believe it's on page 280, that will establish a new 401A defined contribution plan. This is just another tax-deferred plan for our employees to access. A 401A is available to governmental entities like ourselves. So we're asking the board with this new plan. Today, the current employees are able to contribute to a 401K or 457 plan through Kentucky Deferred Comp. This 401A plan would be run and managed by Kentucky Deferred Comp with Nationwide Financial Services being the trustee and managing all the assets. This 401A would allow us to offer this plan just to our Kentucky Retirement County Employee Retirement System Tier 3 employees. So the Tier 3 employees, we have 63 employees currently. We've projected if everyone were to retire exactly at their 27 years by the year close to 2026, we'll have more Tier 3 employees at FPB than Tier 1 or 2. So this plan would allow employees to contribute up to 4% of their pay, with the plant board having a 50% match. So the maximum that the Frankfort Plant Board would match would be 2% of pay for those Tier 3 employees. We have currently 45 of the 63 Tier 3 employees at FPB contributing to some deferred retirement contribution plan today. So the cost of FPB would be the contribution to the employer contribution. The actual management of the plan is paid for by a fee to the participants' individual accounts. So that's how that would be paid for. FPB has budgeted $12,000 in this current year. We would only have, we're looking this plan to be effective March 1st, so we would only have 4 months in this fiscal year, so that we have enough money budgeted for this year. We have about 100 pages of plan documents in the board packet to look at. I did put a summary in there that shows, let me go to the page here. It's a show that summary showing the highlights of the plan on page 271. I guess I'll go ahead and just open it up to any questions the board might have about the plan. The big thing about this, we are acknowledging that the Tier 3 employees, if they only rely on that plan, will just not have sufficient income in retirement to maintain the lifestyle they're used to while working. This would hopefully be a retention tool for our employees. It does cost a lot to train. Each line of business is very technical, and a lot of our jobs, a lot of money to get our people trained. Hopefully this would help to retain some of those. The big part about it, I'll go through some of this. Employees would be vested 100% upon participation, and there's all kinds of other plan details I'd be happy to go through with any board member.
Let me just ask a couple questions if I could.
Sure.
Tier 3, of course, is not a defined benefit plan, unlike Tier 1 and Tier 2. It's not covered by the inviolable contract, so the General Assembly can change Tier 3 at any time.
Right.
And we're basically telling employees we'll put in up to 50%, but we're not covered by the inviolable either, so the board, this board or future boards would have the ability to determine the contribution every year as part of the budget, right?
We could amend this agreement.
Plan document, so we've got that.
Right.
And as I understand it, without mentioning the name, but one of our bigger competitors that we compete for employees has a similar plan with a much higher match, and the city of Frankfort is already participating in a similar type plan, right?
They do. They have a 401A plan. It's exact same matching contributions that we're proposing.
So, and they're doing it for their Tier 3 employees also?
Yes, it is for their Tier 3 to address the same issues that we are.
John?
Thanks. David, you mentioned that 45 of the 63 currently contribute to this to some sort of deferred compensation?
Yes, sir, they do. Of that 45, the average contribution is 2% of their pay.
Okay.
Is where we are today. Hopefully that will increase with this benefit.
Sure. Is there any break? Are these? They're all newer folks, but in terms of their salary rates, are they generally lower paid folks being newer, or are they some folks been hired at some more technical jobs that might have a little higher salary? What are we looking at salary range wise?
Most of these employees come in in an entry level position,
Okay.
so we're talking lower on the pay scale of our pay grades.
And you mentioned, I mean, so what was the date where if our retirements came through, we would flip to a majority in Tier 3?
Around 2026.
Okay.
So we're not far away from that being the majority of our workforce.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Dawn?
No, I think I asked all mine earlier.
Okay.
So this resolution's in there, and the way it's worded, the wording brings in all of the different plans and forms that need to be signed, and that resolution is required by Nationwide to just show that the board has accepted and we can get this plan up and going.
And deferred comp's a state agency, and I think the General Assembly didn't they pass last year or year before, that all, I think, state employees are automatically enrolled now in deferred comp when they start. They can opt out, but I think they're all automatically enrolled, yeah.
That's my understanding. We were looking into whether we fit under that. We thought we might be exempt from that. Today, it's set up to not be mandatory. That's certainly something the board can change. I mean, there are definitely benefits to having an employee opt out. I've heard comments from some. I know once you get people started in it, there's usually people tend to stay, get used to that money coming out and stay in. But we definitely, if the board was approve this, our Human Resources Department, along with Kentucky Deferred Comp, would come and walk through this with our employees and let them know about this benefit.
And it would start March 1st, correct?
It would start March 1st. That would give us time to get the plan set up, communicated to our employees, have Deferred Comp come in and meet, allow employees to make elections and to their plan. And so, yeah, that's the general of it.
Mr. Chairman, if it'd be in order, I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the new 401A defined contribution plan.
Do we have a second?
No second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted. Number 8.5. Harvey.
Back
Back.
again.
Harvey.
Get rid of it. David is out today, so I'm going to be here in his stead. We're asking you guys to consider a request for a public hearing on February 11th at 5 p.m. So that would be the same meeting as the cable rates regarding adjustments to the photo classified advertising rate. What we're talking about is channel 3 on a cable system. It used to be channels 26 and 27. One was photo classified and one was a real estate, and we combined those into one, and now it's FPB Marketplace. The channel's been underperforming. Staff believes it's due to outdated pricing, and they believe a lower rate along with the simplified discount structure will increase interest and make it more active and more attractive to both viewers and advertisers. So the current rates and proposed rates are laid out for you guys on the agenda. And again, this would be for a public hearing on February 11th to make those changes in the tariff.
You think anybody's going to show up and protest the rates going down?
I doubt it, but you never know.
So basically, the motion we'd be looking at here is on February 11th, when we're already going to have the other public hearing, to also have a public hearing regarding these rates.
Correct.
So our motion is simply to adopt, or that we'll have a public hearing on that date?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Any objection, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Gary, you got anything you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
not really. Thank you.
Any discussion on any old or new business?
I'll just say something
Sure.
real quick. I mentioned briefly before about the board governance policy. I know that part of our board is really busy right now, so look for possibly a draft of a board governance policy that maybe we could start talking about maybe in April.
Okay. Do you want us, you've got a draft, don't you?
I've got a draft.
So maybe, especially since two of our members are tied up down at the Capitol, maybe prior to that, though, you could get that out and circulate it to everyone?
Sure.
So everybody can have a chance to read it
Sure.
during times when you're in
When they don't have
recess?
anything to do,
When you're in
sure,
recess,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
but I'd be happy to look at
Yeah.
anything.
Okay,
We-
great.
yeah.
I can send that out quickly.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, item number 11.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to call closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C, discuss pending litigation regarding the reservoir.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going into closed session. Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Without objection, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're back in open session. Mr. Snyder, I recognize you for several motions.
I have, Mr. Chairman, if you do not mind, I have a series of motions.
Go to it.
First off, I would like to make a motion to direct staff, the FPB, to put together an application and revised set of planning documents for a new submission to the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the reconstruction of the reservoir. And we're going to ask them to try to do that in an expedited manner, hopefully get it to them on the 15th of February or for the March meeting. And I also would like to direct staff, when that is submitted to the Planning Commission, to post those planning documents on the FPB website.
Any discussion? Do you have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Without objection,
Aye.
all those in favor say aye. Oh, you want to call the roll on this
That's
one?
up to you.
Without
Go ahead,
objection,
call the roll.
okay. You want to call the roll?
Yeah.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Hale?
Yes.
Member Cubine?
Yes.
There we go, we got 3 yeses.
Okay.
It's
All
unanimous.
right. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I've got another motion if you do not mind.
Yes, sir.
In order to expedite this matter, we're gonna need some legal services, outside legal services. I'd like to make a motion to waive the FPB procurement policies requirement for this procurement of legal services only, that an RFQ be issued for professional services. This is because KRS 424-260 allows for the procurement of professional services without first making newspaper advertisements for bids. I make that motion.
And the reason for that is in order to make the February,
Expedited the February deadline.
get it
yes.
completed, get to the planning and zoning.
Yes.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I guess you ought to call the roll on this one too.
Okay.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Hale?
Yes.
Member Cubine?
Yes.
Pass unanimous.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I would also like to make a motion to authorize staff to retain legal counsel for assistance with the 6.5 million gallon reservoir submittal to planning and zoning as soon as possible in light of the urgent need to begin construction. My understanding is Hance and our general manager will contact 3 attorneys and gauge interest and make a selection.
And they're authorized
They're
to
authorized
select one and enter
select
into
one
that
and
agreement?
Enter an agreement with them.
Okay.
I second.
Any discussion? We'll call the roll.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Hale?
Yes.
Member Cubine?
Yes.
Pass unanimous.
Any other matters we need to discuss tonight?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
This program has been brought to you by Cable 10 Community Television as part of the Frankfort Plant Board.